rural route? The interstate. So in terms of information on politics, public policy, sociology, social justice issues, if people have existing knowledge gaps and the conservative worldview is dominant, what gets used to fill information gaps? Unconsciously, physically embodied conservative worldview. Because it's there, because it's easy. There's nothing you can do about it. It's the way your brain works. Okay? This is one of the reasons why we as progressives reinforce conservative thought all the time. We can't help it. So framing is changing that. Here's an example of reinforcing through negation. Scott Walker has not even created half of the 250,000 jobs his central campaign promise depended on. You're going to know by the time this is done why that reinforces the conservative frame. First of all, I mentioned his name. That's number one. Here's a simpler example. Richard Nixon saying, "I'm not a crook." Right? George Lakoff wrote the book, Don't Think of an Elephant. If I say don't think of an elephant, ooh, elephant. So how is framing critical? Every message has a frame. Every single one. It defines your moral worldview. People don't vote issues. People respond to morals and values. And more people vote on moral frames and issues. We know this. Every single poll. People who interpret polls don't always get this because they aren't trained in the cognitive sciences, but every single poll validates this.
Scott, would this account in part for low voter turnout among Democrats?
We're going to get to that. And just hit on a huge point. In polls, why do people report they don't vote? Because their leaders don't what? They don't represent their values. Could it be that those millennials that don't vote because look, millennials are way more progressive than any of us, just naturally. They don't want to drive cars. They want urban transit, right? So could it be that they don't vote because they don't think that there's people they can vote for that reflect their values? Think about that. Frames are really powerful. Fred Rogers, right? Incredibly progressive person, right? The progressive frame is based on the idea of empathy and nurturance. Well, who is more nurturing and empathetic than Mr. Rogers? Right? This quote is great. We live in a world in which we need to share responsibility. It's easy to say, it's not my child, it's not my community, not my world, not my problem. I'm from Brookfield, right? That's what people in Brookfield say about Milwaukee. They're not my kids, it's not my community, it's not my problem. Mr. Rogers says, there are those who see the need and respond. I consider those people my heroes. What's he saying? I'm my brother's keeper. On the other hand, James Dobson, focus on the family. My observation is that women are merely waiting for their husbands to assume leadership. You're going to see why that perfectly evokes the conservative frame. So here's what conservatives know. They know that frames are necessary. They know how to communicate outside of issue silos. State Rep Chris Taylor is a friend of mine. I'm her constituent. She goes to the ALEC conferences undercover. She says, wow, every one of those sessions, the breakout sessions, no matter what it's about, comes down to two things. Limited government, personal liberty. connects every issue they have. What's ours? I know, right? Right? Somebody actually asked me that.